Welcome back, Statesman Nation, to Coffee with the Statesman here at Smoky Row, Oskaloosa. And with me today, another guest outside of the normal sports parameters. Today we have Director of Sports Medicine, Ibrahim. Good to have you on the show, and hello.
It's good to be here.
How are you doing today?
Just another day in the life of me, so I shouldn't even be here. I should probably be doing something else.
Well, thank you for taking a little bit out of your day to share with us a little bit about sports medicine and how that department is one of the integral pieces of athletics here at WPU. So we want to first start off and get to know you a little better in that how did you get here? So what sports did you do while you were growing up, and how did you get interested in medicine, sports medicine in general?
All right, so started my brief sports career. I started sports in high school, like really organized sports of any kind. I played football for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, and I realized that was not going to be a thing for me. So I promptly quit football. But a long time I was doing football. I was also running track. So I was pretty good at track, so I continued doing that. We ended up winning a state championship our senior year, and we won some other things along the way. Um, and then after that, I actually ran track and field in college too for a while. So I ran at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts for 2 years, which was fun. Got to travel and experience some different things, which is really excellent. It's integral to helping me be able to relate to student athletes. And I've had injuries, so some of that is what helped get me into athletic training also. My mom's a registered nurse, so that's kind of how it branched me into the medical aspect. That's always been a thing ran in my family. A lot of people are nurses, and my aunt's a dentist, and things like that. Just
Kind of grew up around
just kind of
medicine.
grew up around, yeah. So that's kind of my brief athletic career condensed. I don't really want to talk about it. It's not important. Um, and then just really what brought me into athletic training was that background in medicine being around, and then also I was fortunate to have some good athletic trainers around me. So in high school, we had a really good athletic trainer. Then also in college, I suffered through a hamstring injury that was able to be helped really well by the athletic training staff that was at Northeastern.
So then, when you got to college, was that your initial major, or is that something that you kind of diverged into later as you went through what you were talking about?
Yeah, so I started out as a psychology major, um, and then I quickly realized that was not going to be a thing for me. So a little after a year being a psych major, I started looking to doing an internal transfer at Northeastern. So I did that internal transfer at Northeastern while I was still competing, and then just the amount of work that I had to do, I ended up I quit track because of it. So um, but yeah, I think some of that, just being around it and being around, seeing what they were doing, and knowing that that was a thing that kind of bridged some of those psychology aspects. Because again, you did have to deal with people on a personal level and understand what was, um, having an injury in athletics can be a very encapsulating experience. I mean, it goes just beyond the physical. So I could still maintain some of that other psychological aspect in addition to the things that really did drive me, which was like anatomy and physiology and things of that nature, and sports medicine specifically.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point. How much psychology that at the time you're like, whatever, has kind of come back into your job?
There's a bunch. You'd be surprised. People live what I say is between the ears. I have an injured basketball athlete. You can guess which one is. I'm not allowed to say, but me and him right now are working on that a lot right now. He's at a spot physically where he should be able to do more than he is, but kind of the fear of, well, the last time I did something I got hurt, or just I don't feel like myself. Trying to get past some of those hurdles that aren't physical. Like, you're in a spot, you can do this. Really trying to get him to work past that, and almost like sports psychology, trying to help him get back into the swing of things.
So are you still kind of glad you did that psychology at the beginning?
It is, yeah. So I ended up having enough credits that I had a psych minor. I didn't need to take any additional courses. So I mean, it's good to have that background knowledge in it. I mean, I still get to apply it here and there.
That's good,
Yeah.
because as a history major, I'm still trying to find ways to
Yeah.
apply that to sports, which I can, but
Yeah.
it's nice that you feel like you're not waste a
Yeah.
couple
No, it
years at the
definitely
end of
wasn't
the
a
day.
waste at
Yeah.
all.
So then you got to do some graduate experience, and it was actually here, and then you also got to go back to Massachusetts and work as well. So tell us a little bit about your experience as a grad assistant and then back at the associates.
So I actually didn't go back to Massachusetts. I did my graduate assistantship here. So after I finished my undergrad, I was looking for graduate assistant positions, and I wanted to make sure I passed the board certification exam, which I'm sure we can get into later about how you become an athletic trainer. Um, and William Penn was a unique situation. So actually, sight unseen, I came out to Iowa. Um, the people kind of were the things that brought me in. Also, the fact that I didn't have to do another science degree, which was very important to me. I was kind of burnt out from doing science. I wanted to apply more of it, and kind of get my feet wet in my ground and my foundation of my athletic training career started. So I came out here and I was here for 2 years, and I graduated with my master's in business leadership here in 2015. And then after that, I left to go to Wayne State, which is a Division II school in Northeast Nebraska. So I was there for 2 years as an assistant athletic trainer, working with the football team and the women's basketball team, and was able to really apply and kind of really develop and get to learn and apply some things that weren't in a graduate assistant role. I was able to do a lot of things as a graduate assistant here, things that still ever lasted till the time I got back, but really being able to kind of broaden some of that while I was at Wayne and lost my train of thought. It's just a thing that's going to happen. It's gone. It's never coming back.
It's all right.
That ship has sailed.
It's all right. It has. So then what, after you got your grad assistantship and
Yeah.
you experienced a couple things at Wayne for a couple years,
Yeah.
what was the next steps you took in trying to find a full-time job, and how
So,
did that kind of
I mean,
trail you back to here?
I realistically did have a full-time job. I could have stayed at Wayne as long as it did. I mean, the people, the facilities, the athletic training room, God, it was beautiful. I had a really good time, and then actually I got reached out by the former head athletic trainer here and Nick Rule, our current athletics director, about a position that came open. And I mean, I had always had a fun time at William Penn. I mean, everything about my experience was great, from living, with the GAs over in University Park, and then, having liberty to make changes. William Penn's a very progressive school that, had its sights on the future and was trying to grow and develop and continue to do all those things, push it forward. We had a lot of creative liberty to do that. And then, with my relationship with Nick, Nick was golf coach at the time, so I was athletic trainer for women's golf, so we had a personal relationship too. So knowing, kind of what his vision was and what my vision was and what we could, bring the program forward with was, it all just fit right in line. So it ended up being, I mean, just the perfect storm of being able to come back and be able to make a lot of really great changes. And we've done that, and we're continuing to do that. We actually just had a conversation talking about some insane 5-year goals, but
Why set lame 5-year goals, right?
Huh?
Why set lame 5-year goals?
Yeah, this one's a this is a moonshot 5-year goal, but I mean, if it's a thing that we can try to develop along with some other people, would be maybe a first of its kind in the NAI. I don't know if it's even a thing that's happening at this level.
Well, we'll circle back to that in a minute and talk more about what you do here and what a day-to-day is. So your sports medicine, a lot of people, of course, will say trainer, but how
Yeah.
do those couple things kind of combine, and what do
Yeah.
you do day-to-day with
Yeah,
everyone?
God, don't say trainer. Whenever you're talking about an athletic trainer, always say an athletic trainer. A trainer trains dogs or horses or whatever else. Again, athletic trainer is a registered and trademark term that is owned by the BOC and the NATA. You have to be licensed to use that term, or you have to be certified and then licensed to practice athletic training. So on a day-to-day basis, our days typically start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and from 9 to 12 we have regular treatment hours. Students have to make appointments to come in and see us, and they'll get evaluated, or they'll come in and do their regular rehab treatments or their preventative treatments, whatever the case may be. We have lunch from 12 to 1, and then after that we have an administrative hour. For every athlete that we see, we do actually need to write a medical note on these. We are a medical facility. We have to keep literal notes that are based on the CMS standard. So we'll take that time to try to catch up on the notes from the day, and then after that we will go right into getting everybody ready for practice, and that usually goes from about 2 o'clock until about 3:30 once practices are starting. And then we'll be covering practices until roughly 5:36, and then after that we'll do whatever post-practice treatments we need to do. And then if there are games, I mean, we're covering games. It's a 7-day-a-week, 18-hour thing, depends on the day. For example, this morning, my first graduate assistant came in at 5 in the morning to cover women's lacrosse practice. My other graduate assistant will be leaving today, probably somewhere in like the 9:30, 10 range after the volleyball game. So, it's just an ongoing thing all day, every day, supporting the William Penn Athletics Department.
You have a good number of grad assistants. I'm sure you're thankful for that, because otherwise you probably couldn't do as much for everyone.
No.
How do you then, I know you divvy it up among them,
Yep.
but how overall as a department do you handle all the different sports? Because you have different types of players, different types of activities, and they all
Yep.
have their separate injuries or things you need to prevent them from
Yeah.
getting?
So I mean, every sport, with the exception of a couple, have a dedicated athletic trainer for them, and sports are divvied up amongst the entire staff by, we'll call it in-season priority. So the fall sports at the beginning of the year have priority, followed up by the winter sports, followed up by the spring sports. So when two sports seasons overlap, the season that started first has priority until that season ends, and that's how we're in rotation. So each of us have a primary fall, winter, and spring assignment with some secondary sports attached to that. If you have sports that are going to overlap, if that were to be the case. Um, the thing I like to say is that you don't go to athletic training school for football or basketball or anything. And I know me and Coach Hagen have talked about this because similarly to athletic performance, um, you don't train somebody exactly for just basketball. Um, Again, those are going to be kind of nuanced things at the end. But if somebody hurts a shoulder, you rehab a shoulder. You don't rehab them because they play volleyball. You don't rehab them because they play baseball. You rehab the shoulder, and then they can go back and do whatever activity it is. So there's a remarkable amount of overlap with most of somebody's rehab treatment plan until you get to those kind of end stages where you're trying to return them back to the sport. Um, I lost your question.
So essentially, then, what is there any main extra stuff you have to do because you're dealing with everyone, or is it still just
Really, it is just a logistical nightmare. Nobody gets to hear this. I know we've got a coaches meeting coming up, and it's really just about making sure we have as much information about what's happening with every sport that's going on any given day as early as possible. Um, Things changing is literally our nightmare because inclement weather can sometimes really throw everything for a loop for a lot of people, but us included, because it can affect every single sport that now is having to change things. Um, Water on a field doesn't manifest itself. It's a thing that we try to get done ahead of time. Student athletes that need treatment before practice, if suddenly practice changes earlier or later, suddenly that affects our entire day. Because if I expect you to go at 3 and suddenly going at 12, well, I can't do all the things I would have done at 2 because, well, we need to do them at 11 now. And if I don't have, if we don't have proper notice of it, we can't properly accommodate and make sure that everyone's ready to do the things they need to do. Thing I usually say sometimes to student athletes and coaches is that our success is your success. Um, Nothing that we're doing is to wave a flag that look what sports medicine did. It's all about the student athletes, about what they're able to succeed and achieve. Really, sports medicine is a kind of behind the scenes kind of thing. You don't really hear or think about it. Um, and again, that's kind of not the way it should be, but that's kind of the way it is. But that's not exactly anything I'm exactly opposed to either, because you know, I'm not really looking to be in the spotlight of, hey, look at me, look what I did, because that's,
I healed this guy?
yeah,
Aren't I
yeah,
great? Yeah.
yeah.
So then, kind of circling back to how good does your relationship have to be with strength and conditioning? Because you're working with them, I assume, in making sure everyone is staying
Yeah.
fit in terms of preventing stuff, but also how they can rehab and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we work really, really well together. The more ears and eyes we can have as a student athlete, the more, we can help them. So sometimes student athletes aren't the greatest about coming in and saying something, but they may say something to one of the strength and conditioning coaches, um, and they will come in and they'll let us know. So they'll say, hey, did you know that such was happening with XYZ person? So at that point, we can now hopefully intercept the person and be like, hey, I heard you were having some soreness, or we weren't able to do this, or we weren't able to do that. Why don't we take a look at this and see what we can do rehab-wise? And then also, once you hit the limitations of what we're going to do in the athletic training facility, we can then, again, try to progress them back into the weight room appropriately. Be it, I've got a student athlete who's got some foot injuries, and again, at this point, he shouldn't be loading any weight, but he can still do all the body weight exercises. So that way we can still get him in there and doing things, and again, we can progress him as necessary based on the recommendation of mine, and then collaboratively with the athletic performance staff.
And then also to go off of that, how about with coaches? Because I'm sure there's always that kind of tension of when can I get my guy back, but I also want him to be healthy. And then I'm not saying our coaches are like demanding a player's back because he's injured or something like that and there's not a time, but you still have to have that relationship of, hey, I know you might need him this week, but he really
Yeah.
should go another week and
You
stuff
know,
like that.
I am actually super blessed because our coaches really aren't like that.
That's good.
Um, Anything I ask, again, they're going to be these different little asks here and there. They're going to be like, wow, why won't you do this? Like, Or again, I'm sure there are things that they go like, why is he doing this? But I mean, really, we work really, really well together. I know a lot of the coaching staff from before when I was a graduate assistant. So some of the coaches I work with currently, like Coach Hafner and Coach Henry, again, I mean, I've known for years at this point, considering the time that I had, when I was here before. In addition to all the new coaches too, everyone understands what we're doing. We're all on the same page. Um, no student athlete and no student athlete, despite the fact that every once in a while they'll have their own conceptions about what their coaches believe and want the best for them. I don't think there's a coach really on our campus that would willingly put a student athlete in harm's way just to get a win. Um, and
which is how it should be.
which is exactly how it should be. So like, sometimes I hear other athletic trainers and they're all like, "Wow, why like." Why are our coaches doing this? Why are coaches doing that? Including many coaches in our conference. We're all in this email chain. Like, how do I get, this thing to stop? I'm like, honestly, that's not the thing I deal with because they don't. We all see the same big picture, and it's remarkable. It should just be like this, and I feel bad for others where it's not like that.
Then, kind of going forward, then to your own inner culture,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure how much you thought about it, so we'll see how this question goes. But what are you trying to promote? What are you trying to give off to your GAs who are going to go out and get jobs elsewhere? And what are you trying to build within that department as kind of a philosophy?
We have a philosophy. We've been actively working on that together as a team. So we just went over some core values just was 2 weeks ago. But I think one of the things that we're really trying to develop as a department is before I took over, there was a lot of mismanagement and poor organization, and the department I think was just a few years behind where it could be as far as a handful of different things, be it modalities, be it what the facility looked like, be it some things were happening out at the stadium, out at Lacey. So we've made a lot of changes in the last 2 years, including renovating the athletic training room. We've got new modalities. Um, We've got those two satellite facilities that are fully operational out at Lacey that we've had a lot of great comments on from visiting teams that have been able to be out there, including when we had to host the NAIA men's soccer tournament. They were really, amazed at our facilities. Um, I think one of the things that I like to say to them, and the way I want them to envision themselves is to be proud of what we've done, but never satisfied with what we've done. So that's kind of a underlying foundation of everything we've done. Additionally, a lot of us, including myself, and most of them have come from higher level institutions. So everyone wants to think like, student athletes, particularly like, oh, Division One this or Division Two that, and that they're better. But as far as your healthcare is concerned, there shouldn't be a level of you get Division One healthcare because you're at a Division One school. You get Division Two healthcare, and so on. It's not tiered like that. And the way I think about it is that you should have the best healthcare I can provide with the resources that we have, and that's what we're doing for them. We're trying to maximize our resources, and we've done that better than we have in the past. So student athletes, particularly the ones that have been here from before I was here, and then since I've been here, all of them have said this place is night and day compared to what it used to be, and that's a thing that I'm very proud of.
Then, and I don't know how much you want to touch on it or not, but
Sure.
then to kind of circle back, what to see it earlier, what are you looking to advance to keep up with the times, we'll say, whereas sports medicine, I mean, medicine is medicine, but
Yeah.
some things that are emerging and kind of that 5-year plan you mentioned to kind of make
So
things even better here.
I don't even have the beginning of the 5-year plan. That was a very conceptual talk.
Okay, yeah,
That
yeah.
was an impromptu talk that me and Nick had earlier. But um, again, really, it's about pushing the future. There are a lot of places that do integrated stuff, and with the strength and conditioning departments or the athletic performance departments, in addition to sports medicine. So again, a wild idea that is totally unformed is to have a hybrid department that would be titled something like human performance, where strength and conditioning and athletic training are working directly hand in hand on a day-to-day basis in the exact same facility. Um, that's the long, long, long shot. Again, we all should have crazy ideas, as Nick said earlier. I mean, what's the point of trying to just here? Let's set this bar super low and get over it. 'Cause
Right.
that's why do that when we can and should do better. So the 3-year plan really. We've so far done very good with the staff that we have. Trying to work on adding staff so that we can maximize student athlete interactions. We run through a lot of student athletes on any given day. I wish that sometimes we could have a little more time to do one-on-one treatments with them. Um, so that's a priority of mine, is trying to make sure that, and I know that everyone's in support of that. So I think that's something that we'll be able to hopefully get accomplished here in the next 3 to 5 years for sure, and then. Um, building a 20,000 square foot facility would be awesome too. So again, those are some just unformed ideas. But as far as the things that we do have, I mean, we are up there with a lot of places. Some of the graduate assistants are doing their capstone research and working on theses, and one had an idea of what kind of modalities compared to a Division One school versus a Division One AA school, or different tiers of healthcare at other institutions. And I said that isn't a thing that you can maybe exactly quantify one versus the other because of the fact that we have some of the same things that some of these other places have. There aren't. I know some places that don't have light therapy or don't have thermostim that are at again quote unquote higher institutions. So you know that's a blessing for us, and again a detriment for them. You wish that everyone could have all the same resources for all the student athletes, but they can't. But I'm going to make sure that we get everything we can for ours.
Any other tech that's emerging that you think is going to be cool in the field of sports medicine or recovery or something like that? Something that if someone wrote you a check for $1 million, you'd be like, I want one of those and one of those or
Oh,
something
there's
like that.
always stuff, and there are always people to try to sell it to us. Every year, part of our athletic trainers have to go through continuing ed annually or biannually. So every 2 years you have to report 50 CEUs of continuing education. So actually, we just had to do that a month ago, make sure our continuing ed was all up to date and everything was certified. But every year, part of our perk for our staff, and again, it's also good for continuing education, is that we do go to the national convention, and the national convention has an enormous expo that is probably the size of the pack times like 4 or 5, like just full of vendors, you know, showcasing all their different things. Um, do I think there's any one specific item that's going to be this? This is it. This is what's going to help heal everybody. No, I think that's just the same day in day out preventative stuff that again between my staff, our knowledge and the application of knowledge effectively and efficiently to the student athletes. Again, preventing an injury is better than trying to cure anybody for anything, and ounce prevention is worth a pound to cure.
And then I guess finally, before we get to a couple up or wrap up questions,
Mhm.
kind of your, I won't say sales pitch, that seems kind of wrong, but if a protective, uh, projective,
Perspective.
perspective, there we go,
I got
some
you.
of those
Yep.
pro words, comes in, what is your kind of statement saying why, if you were to come to William Penn, this is better than some of those D1s or something like that?
You know, William Penn. A lot of times, it's interesting. 'Cause I've been on so many interview committees, and I've been on. I was a graduate assistant, and now I'm in my role now. And you see students and faculty, and the common thread along what everybody always says about William Penn is the people. So I think when you come in here, you can understand and know that you're being cared for as an individual and for all your individual characteristics, regardless of where it is you came from before. Additionally, when I bring people around the athletic training room, we have got a lot of things that a lot of places don't have. So when recruits come in and we're trying to talk about the athletic training program, our relationships with the hospital here in town, Mahaska Health Partnership, we can get somebody in usually within at minimum a day, usually sometimes 2 days. Additionally, we still have outreach networks that work through Iowa Ortho. We have outreach with Des Moines orthopedic surgeons. So if there's something that one of us didn't feel comfortable handling, we could easily send you out. We have great relationships with the physical therapists here in town at Kinetic Edge and Carol Kelderman and her team. And again, just in the athletic training room, we've got. I'm going to try to visualize the room because this is what I end up doing when recruits come in. I go, I'm not trying to not look at you, but I want to make sure I let you know all things that we've got. But we've got everything from hot packs, inversion tables, our medicine balls. We've got dumbbells, ankle weights, foam rollers, vibrating foam rollers this year. We've got electrical stimulation. We've got ultrasound. We've got light therapy. We've got thermostim. We've got hypervolt. We've got game ready. We've got paraffin baths. We've got whirlpools. We've got tape and all the other usual stuff. Um, we have cupping therapy. That's one I skip a lot.
It's
Yeah,
popular.
yeah.
I've seen
Again,
a
yeah.
lot of
Again,
athletes running
you
around
see a
with all
lot of
the
athletes
little,
with
little
look
things
like they got
around.
attacked by a giant squid.
That's right.
But we've got a lot of great things, and we're obviously always trying to continue pushing forward with everything, and I think that's one of the biggest things too. Is that is that like I said earlier, that proud but never satisfied. If there is something else that we can do, always looking into it. I know that me and a couple of my full-time staff are trying to look into dry needling because that's an emerging thing that people are looking into and getting certified in, and how we can bring that in as another tool to help student athletes recover.
And then just to final cap that off to circle about that, how unique is that relationship to some of the other local area people, the therapy and the hospital?
It's great to have that outreach. You know, Carol Calderman, we are trying to work on doing like a journal club, something like where our staffs can meet more often. Um, Actually, just had a student athlete come in who was, while we were over on winter break, was over at Connecticut Edge getting seen. So he's about to transition back into care, knowing that they're email away, like, hey, this patient's back. Like, what were you guys doing? We're going to work into getting into the next phase of his rehab. Do you think there's anything I should be concerned about? Anything we need to work on? That seamless flow of information has been really excellent. The hospital recently with Kevin Durande and their entire team has been amazing to work with. They have done as much as they possibly can to help us out with whatever we need without even blinking. I mean, something that was so new for all of us was working that NAI men's soccer tournament, and again, one of the things you need a physician on site. So being able to reach out to them, hey, we've got the soccer game in a couple of days. We have to have a physician there. Can you guys ride one without even blinking? They're like, absolutely, we're going to make that happen for you, and they did. And without that type of relationship is great to have. So
That's cool, and I definitely think a benefit for all involved
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
a benefit for everybody. It's awesome. It's been really really great. We've done some really really great things, and we're not done yet. We're going to keep identifying those emerging things and trying to keep push forward always with everything.
Well, then time for a couple fun questions for
This is
you.
my favorite. I do this in my interviews with people. Not many people have to decide what is a sandwich and then is a hot dog a sandwich. They hate it. My staff hates it. I have to pick a new question. I wasn't allowed to ask that anymore.
Well, that's funny. Jared actually wrote that as one of your 3 questions.
Oh,
So
I'll fight that. We'll do that one. You want to start with that one?
let's go since we brought it
A
up already.
hot dog is a sandwich, okay? And we've had this argument all the way up and down about it. Yes, Jared, a hot dog is a sandwich. So when we talk, the way I phrase a question, typically when I ask this in interviews, and I'm about to get a new one because now people know about it, is I ask someone to describe a sandwich, and everyone goes, well, sometimes it's 2 pieces of bread with whatever. Well, I say, well, you go to Subway and they don't cut the bread all the way through. They start stuffing things in. They go, okay, it could be a sub sandwich, so it could be 1 piece of bread. And then I ask, is a hot dog a sandwich? And then they get all flustered because they hate that. And well, it's true. A hot dog is something between 2 slices of bread or something else, and meets all the definitions of a sandwich. Um, More importantly, when you look at it in the dictionary, hot dog is listed as a sandwich. Yes, Jared, look it up. Yes, but that doesn't matter because you could have an open-faced sandwich. Yeah, which only
Jared asked for
has
the listening audience if it's 1 piece of bread
yes,
involved.
and again, you can have an open. People argue all the time, and what people hate, and like when we argue this, sometimes this has been like these get to into heated debates in the athletic training room at times. Um, is that when you go up to order a hot dog, you ask for a hot dog, not a hot dog sandwich. That doesn't preclude it from being a sandwich just because you don't call it a sandwich all the time.
Then a follow up maybe, is water wet?
Water is not wet. Water makes things wet. So once in contact with water, something is then wet.
There we go.
Yes.
Abu has spoken.
I've
All right,
spoken. That's
question
it.
2. What is your dream car?
My dream car.
And I know you got a new thing recently, so if you'd had to, any car in the world.
Hmm. That is a good question. There's so many. You just had to pick just one. I'm partial to Lamborghinis, but that Porsche 918 is a machine, and I really like that thing. And I've heard it's insanely fast, and those top-mounted exhausts are filthy sounding with the crackle. I really really enjoy that. Or McLaren P1, the
Mhm.
the the raw appeal of McLaren P1 with all that horsepower being rear-wheel drive only, and being so fast. I would never exit the car because I'd wrap it around a tree, and that'd be that. And so his headstone would read. I mean, that
That's
is a
how Abu wants to go at the end of the day, is taking a P1 through a corner and not coming out the other
and
end.
yep, and I may not come out the other side, but What a ride, right?
That's for sure. Jeez, that would be fantastic. Third, final question, and it's kind of or not final question. Two more. So, first one.
Okay.
It's kind of been chronicled, and for those maybe who don't know, look it up potentially on Twitter. If instead of booze, workouts are pretty good. So, because of that, what then is your favorite breakfast? And if it's not your daily thing, if you were to splurge, what is you're like, I don't care about calories type of breakfast?
Who's chronicling my workouts?
No one's chronicling them, but
Oh,
it's known that you do hit the gym. We'll put it
okay.
that way.
It's known to hit the gym, and I'll be clear now. This is a propaganda campaign by a specific sprint coach on this campus who won't be named, lest he continue this propaganda. But it's a propaganda. There's a hashtag also that is also propaganda. Needs to end. Um, I eat a daily breakfast that I wouldn't call it my favorite breakfast, but I like eating my overnight oats. So that is a regular daily breakfast that I eat, like on weekdays. On the weekend, I mean, you throw bacon on anything, and I am in there. So like, just probably like Ron Swanson when he goes, "I want all the bacon and eggs you have." That will probably be like a pretty good breakfast for me. I like thick cut bacon and just like more thick cut bacon, and then like if you sprinkle bacon bits on the thick cut bacon, and then like put bacon salt on it.
Bacon gravy.
No, skip the gravy.
All right,
That's too messy. Just I want to eat it with my hands.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Final question then. You are a big Massachusetts New England Patriots sports fan.
I sure am.
Where then is Mr. Tom Brady going? Is he coming back? Is he going out? What would you want as a fan?
I read an article like a week and a half ago. If you'd asked me, like, let's say I read this article 10 days ago, which I don't know. If you'd asked me 11 days ago, I went, I want Brady back. I love Tom Brady. I do love Tom Brady. Tom Brady is my godfather. I love everything New England Patriots and Tom Brady. Um, what I read an article was the free agency and all that and how that's going to end up playing out, and that Tom is taking it seriously and that he is going to probably fetch somewhere around 30 to 35 million dollars on the open market, which the Patriots can't afford. So does Tom take what he's done over the last 19 years and take hometown discounts, or does Tom decide to try to do something else? Um, if the Patriots were to make that happen, the real issue becomes is if Tom has another, again, mediocre as far as Tom Brady standards are, stats are concerned, season, do we have to do this whole thing all over again? Like a la Brett Favre, where is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? Is he ever going to retire? Like, is Tom Brady going to show up to the stadium in a hover round and then have to, get out and then, start throwing balls? So, um, I'm getting more and more comfortable with the idea of I want Tom to just retire. I think, that whole pick six, I don't think that sits well with him. So could Tom sign a one-game contract and then throw a touchdown, and then whenever he throws that first touchdown next year as a Patriot, just hang it up? I'd like that.
You'd be okay if he did kind of a hockey player thing where he sits out the first half of the year,
Yep.
comes in, wins a couple games at the end, and then
Yep. I'd be perfect.
sails off in the
I'd be
sunset.
fine with that. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. Abu Ibrahim, thanks for joining us here on Coffee with the Statesman. Glad you were able to
Absolutely.
come and get some insights into the world of sports medicine.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for listening and downloading. We'll see you next time on Coffee with the Statesman.